The Lego Movie was directed by Christopher Miller and Phil Lord, and at the time, before this movie came out, I was a bit skeptical, as a lot of product-based movies, such as Transformers and a bunch of other different ones before then, had sucked, and we thought that this was all going to be such a huge product placements type film that a lot of people were really skeptical going into it. But afterwards, a lot of people really loved it, including me. The first thing we gotta start off with when talking about this film is its story. The story is kind of a basic hero's journey story mixed with a little bit of Jesus symbolisms and whatnot. But it's the underlying connections that this film has that makes it more unique. See, on the outside, you do have a little bit more of social commentary than a lot of people would pick up the first time around. You have security cameras at Bricksburg, posters saying, I am watching you, reminding you of the 1984 type posters that were created in 1984 based off of the book called 1984. And this movie has a lot of really deep messages about corporatism and anti-copyright and anti-remixers, people who take certain properties and make them into extravagantly different things and making a new form of art form about it. And that is the biggest drive for this movie, is its political commentary. But on its surface, it is a very fun, very well written, a very well voice cast type film. A very ingenuitive type film, I must say, is that parts of it, actually a lot of it, was stop motion. Some of it was helped by computer-generated images, but in all sensitive purposes, it creates this really great sort of niche film that is probably one of my favorite animated films of all time, aside from The Secret of NIMH. Now, at the time, though, there were a lot of people who really decried this film, saying that this was anti-business, essentially because the villain of the film was called Lord Business. And granted, I will concede that it does kind of have the anti-corporatism message, but when you really look at it, it does also preach the value of freedom of expression with Emmett's speech towards the end of the film, where he's talking to Lord Business and saying, well, look at what you've done. You've laid the groundwork for what other people want to do, and look at all these people. They're already making their own things. And that has kind of a dual layer here. For one thing, you do have Legos who they do come in sets. You give them the groundwork, you give kids the groundwork, and what the kids do is that they can go away from the instructions. They don't have to follow the rules when it comes to that. And so they remix the type of ways that this sort of ship, like let's say a TIE fighter can be made, and like they make a different ship out of it. And on the other side, with the corporatism message, is that, you know, you can have this layered, you know, you have this groundwork for a franchise, and you have to take it one step further by remixing it, adding new elements, taking away some elements, and that's the whole beauty of this movie. It tells the viewer that you can be as creative as you want. Granted, there are laws in place in America with copyrights and whatnot, but it does tell this nice message that you don't have to follow the instructions sometimes. Sometimes you have to think outside the box to create something new. And that is a very good message for the Lego Movie to be portraying. Now, getting back to the merits of the movie, the editing is solid, the comedy is very fast-paced, and at some moments in the movie, I found that the comedy bits were a bit too fast. Maybe that's because my brain is a bit slower than the movie was, seeing how it was a little bit late at night when I watched it. But the Lego Movie definitely has a lot of really good comedy. And looking back through it a bunch more times, they do make, like, there is some references to previous, like, Morgan Freeman films. Like, there was a part where they're talking about, like, how to make, you know, this submarine and whatnot, or what, like, an escape pod or something like that. I can't remember which part it was. And Morgan Freeman's character, the wizard, the blind wizard, was like, yeah, we could build a dream catcher out of it. And at first, I never got that reference. And then it was until I watched Stephen King's Dreamcatcher that I was like, oh, that's a really clever joke. And, you know, and it takes a couple viewings for me to really understand a lot of the references that they are referencing in the movie. A lot of them I got on the first time, but there were some that on the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th viewing of the film, that was, that was there. I pretty much understood the full movie at that point. And as you can see from my setup over here, over there, I have some LEGO Dimensions stuff over there. So I'm kind of a huge LEGO fan. I even have some LEGO stuff in the background. I have like a DeLorean. I got a Ecto-1 behind me, but like, I really do enjoy LEGO, and for them to make a movie based around LEGO and to make a message about creativity and bonding and all this really nice messages is a great family movie. However, there are some problems I find with the film. If you know anything about the hero's journey and the tropes that follow with it, you will probably guess beat for beat sometimes the lengths that they're going to go through in the film. They do make some very subversive type jokes, like with the last words of Vesuvius, or the wizard character. Like, he's like, "Oh, I have something to say that will change the way you think about the world," and he dies. Like, that's something that's usually a trope that's used in fantasy films, and it's like, oh, they have a last word, it's going to change the mindset of everyone, and he dies, and then he turns into a ghost. And this film is definitely one of the most creative, most energetic films, one of the most colorful films, colorful kids films I've seen since 2014, and it still maintains to be one of my favorite family films of all time. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the LEGO Movie. The LEGO Movie is a fine piece of art, or not really art, but it has a lot of social commentary. Oh wait, there was that one thing that we should talk about, and that is the Oscars. Yes, at the time of the Oscars, it had already won a couple Golden Globes, a couple People's Choice Awards, and it came time for the Oscars, and guess who took its place? Box Trolls. Yep, Box Trolls was favored more than the LEGO Movie. A movie that had a better message overall, was way more colorful, had a very unique premise, had a very unique animation style, and yet the animation for the Oscars was like, nope, just because it was bashing copyright and because it was, it had a live action element to it, that warrants it to not ever be an animated film. That got a lot of people pissed off. Now, let's also talk about one other detail is the Lonely Island song, Everything is Awesome. During the performance of that song during the Oscars, I remember this, they made little Oscar statues out of Legos, which was probably the coolest thing ever, to like make fun of the fact that they didn't get nominated for Best Animated Feature, but yet they did get nominated for Best Original Song, which I kind of liked. And even in the LEGO Dimensions video game, they made fun of that fact that they didn't get an Oscar by putting a little gold Oscar toy in the intro cutscene for the LEGO Dimensions world. If you notice real closely, Unikitty is right next to a golden Oscar trophy. How cool is that? They make, like, this is a type of property that will make fun of the fact that it didn't even get an award. But it still maintains to be some people's favorite animated film. And for me, being a LEGO fan, being a person that really likes this movie, likes the characters, likes the writing, even though it is a bit fast-paced, I like the animation style, I like the social commentary that it comes with. I think this is a perfect family film. It does have its flaws, yes, because of the fast pace. There's not a lot of comedy that gets picked up that upon repeated viewings you will probably get. And the fact that, you know, it is a predictable type story. You know where some of this stuff is going to go, because if you know anything about the hero's journey, once again, you will probably predict it. But it is a very well done, well performed movie. And I'm going to give the LEGO Movie a 9 out of 10. Now, stick with me for this weekend as we take a look at the LEGO Batman movie, and I hope that this is as awesome as Batman. So, until next time, I'll see you behind the camera. Peace.